Marilyn Monroe is here, Clark Gable is here, including one of the highest ranking military members who was also an actor is buried here.
Those are just a few of my neighbors. First, I watched them just to kill time, but then I couldn't take my eyes off them, just as you won't be able to.
Hi, Jen of Walk with History, veteran, historian, former Navy pilot. I'm here today in Glendale, California at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, which is a cemetery here outside of LA. A lot of celebrities are here. One of my favorite actors of all time, including one of the highest ranking military members who was also an actor, is buried here. James Maitland Stewart. You would know him as Jimmy Stewart. And I grew up outside of a little small town in Pennsylvania, much like Jimmy Stewart's hometown. So I always wanted to come full circle and visit his grave, and we actually found it.
Well, anyway, I was walking down along the street, and I heard this voice saying, "Good evening, Mr. Dove." Well, I turned around, and here was this big 6-foot rabbit leaning up against a lamppost. I thought nothing of that, because when you've lived in a town as long as I've lived in this one, you get used to the fact that everybody knows your name.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother, George.
You might remember Jimmy Stewart winning the Oscar. He's an Academy Award-winning actor for The Philadelphia Story, and then he gets a phone call from his parents and saying, "I heard you won some award, might as well bring it home." And he brought it home and put it in the hardware store window where it stayed for years, and people could walk by and see his Oscar. His parents were very proud of him. That hardware store was owned by his dad. It's right across the street from his museum now in Indiana, PA. His military service is really something we'd like to honor.
Hello. Gee, looks like I'm back in the movies again, doesn't it? Well, as a matter of fact, I like to do some talking. I've only been in the service a year, but I've learned a lot about what the Air Forces have to offer. That's what I want to talk to you about.
He, again, becomes a brigadier general eventually in the Air Force. He does fly in World War II. He flies real missions in World War II. It's just really neat to know his service to his country was so important to him that he was one of the first actors to sign up for the military after war broke out. He felt like it was really part of his character. After he was done with his military service, he stayed in the reserves, and that's why he attained the rank of brigadier general. For those of you who don't know Scott of Walk with History, his great-grandfather was a prop master at Universal Studios in California. Scott is a true Californian, and his great-grandfather did the movie Rear Window. And it's a great Alfred Hitchcock movie with Jimmy Stewart, and he set all the windows in Rear Window. And I have a picture of it in the house with all the names of the windows under the windows as he's setting those windows, where him and Jimmy Stewart and Grace Kelly name all the people from their windows as they watch them from their rear window.
These are the newlyweds on a honeymoon no one will ever forget. He calls her Miss Hearing Aid, an artist of a very odd and strange art. The songwriter who plays the same melody over and over again.
James Maitland Stewart, May 20th, 1908, July 2nd, 1997. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. He's buried here next to his wife. And if you see, she died in 1994, Gloria. He dies in 1997. After Gloria passes, though, Jimmy Stewart he kind of goes into a grieving period. He's on the other side of Gloria's grave, I'll show you, is his adopted son who was killed in Vietnam. So you have Gloria in the middle, and then Mr. Stewart here on the end. But he had a pacemaker that he chose not to recharge the batteries. But one of his last words was, "I'm gonna go be with Gloria now," which I always thought was like the sweetest thing. And so he's buried here beside his wife. Is my favorite movie of all time. And Jimmy Stewart, what I love about that movie so much is his brother, who everyone's celebrating and everyone's excited about, and everybody's in the newspaper. But it's his brother who comes home and makes a point to give his brother credit, to say to my big brother George, the richest man in town. I always loved that part. And to know in real life, it was Jimmy Stewart who was the pilot. It was Jimmy Stewart who did those missions. And when he's telling the story, he's showing that really, as a pilot and as someone who does those things, it's the people back home who support you and who are lifting you up that are really the heroes. And I just love Jimmy Stewart made that movie. It was his first movie he made after he served in World War II. And he plays the man who stays back home, and he plays the man who never gets to follow his dreams and go out and do all the things, but supports everybody and helps facilitate people's dreams by staying home and being a strong foundation. I love that story. I love Mr. Stewart for telling that story. I hope if you ever get a chance to make it out here, you're able to visit Jimmy Stewart. On to my next Walk with History.